Hey everybody, welcome back to our next episode of our Velocity Sellers Podcast. I am your host, Velocity Pete, and today we are on with Joe Lambadjieva, the founder of Amazing Wave. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you more about Amazing Wave and more about AI in the e-commerce space, for a little spoiler of what we're going to talk about, and just also more about how you got into this space and how you created Amazing Wave.
Thank you so much for having me, Pete. And I have to say kudos to such a well-pronounced surname. Like you basically, you warmed my heart, because a lot of people have tried to pronounce that surname. A lot of people have failed, and you did it flawlessly.
Thank you. Being as my name is 3 total syllables, I cannot relate to that. Most people get it right the first time for me. But I will say on the terms of butchering last names, some people spell my name with 2 M's and not 1. It's just 1 M, like the video game, like The Sims, not 2. Sometimes I see 2. I know some minor celebrities that have 2 M's in their name. I think that's where they kind of get it from. And I think some NFL players have Sims as like SIMMS. So I can relate a little bit, but not on the level of pronunciation. Normally no one says like Peter Symes or something like that. So. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to you more about, like I said, Amazing Wave and learn more about the business. I would love if you could give our audience a brief introduction to yourself, your background, and how you got into this space. And again, just more about the company of Amazing Wave.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the e-commerce and digital marketing space for about 13 years now. And 8 of those have been solidly in e-commerce. So I started working more wider e-commerce, sort of like catering to a lot of D2C brands and classic retailers based in the UK. I was kind of overseeing their overall growth strategies across all channels. And later on, I decided to niche specifically into Amazon. So in 2018, I set up my own boutique Amazon agency, specifically focusing on vendors. Called Emerging Retail. And so I grew that to about 20 different clients, quite a big retailers, such as like Panasonic, Tommy, Pisa Couson. So that's kind of where I cut my teeth from an Amazon point of view. And after that, I jumped ship to join an Amazon aggregator called The Mothership, and essentially set up their entire Amazon division. Hired a team, set up all the processes, and basically at the end of 2022, when ChatGPT came out, I started playing around with it and figuring out, okay, how can I use this for my team and for the processes that we were working inside the aggregator. And at this point, I had a kind of an aha moment, which is, okay, this is going to be incredibly revolutionary for a lot of Amazon and e-commerce businesses. And the things I was developing would have a lot of implications for sort of the wider e-commerce space. So this is where Amazing Wave came sort of as a kind of the inspiration of that. And so in 2023, I decided to set up again my own shop. And essentially since then is what I've been focusing on is consulting e-commerce businesses, Amazon sellers on how they can implement AI in their processes, and with this sort of the education of how to use AI in their day-to-day across all their teams.
Yeah. No, and I'm excited to get into that with you, because as someone who is a little scared that I'm going to be replaced with an AI podcast host from time to time. I don't want Jake to get any ideas. But I am starting to dive into AI a little bit. I do use it frequently here and there for various different tasks in my life. So I'm sure there's better ways that I could be using it, and I could be using it better or more efficiently than just saying, what is X, Y, and Z, or asking it very simple questions. I feel like I could be using it more. So I'm excited to talk more about how we can use it in business and in e-commerce, especially in an agency like ours, an Amazon agency that can maybe automate some processes to free up our employees to do more meaningful tasks and stuff like that. So that's what I hear from all the AI, like LinkedIn specialist people that you're saying, like if you're using AI if you're asking ChatGPT a question, you're doing it wrong. You should be using it more for stuff like this. And all the people that are talking about AI that are saying, well, you have to give it the right prompt. You have to prompt it correctly. If you don't, you won't get the best results and stuff like that. So I'm excited to dive into all that with you. I want to get into a little bit more about Amazing Wave and kind of more about what you guys do and really how you are able to help businesses implement AI a little bit better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there is, I mean, I keep kind of the scope very flexible because at the end of the day, AI changes all the time. So one of the things that I actually started along with the agency last year is a newsletter, which I've been running like for more than a year now, and it's the AI for e-commerce newsletter. And this is now read by more than 13,000 subscribers, and I publish it 3 times a week. And the one thing that I learned from running this newsletter every week is that AI changes on a weekly. So if you are not kind of keeping on top, you can basically, fall behind very, very quickly. And so that's why when it comes to running Amazing Wave, I have not said, okay, these are the specific services that I offer, ABC, just pick. But I always sit down with the client and understand, like if you, for example, is an Amazon agency, understand exactly how the processes run and what are the bottlenecks in sort of like efficiency in terms of like, are you, for example, overstaffing yourself in one particular area? Are you spending a lot, like disproportionately long time on one particular process? And then from then on, I develop a specific process for that area or that team, and then train the team to like execute this process. And I try to adopt it specifically around how the organization is already running the existing process. So there is nothing that is kind of off the shelf. Everything is adopted to existing processes. And I think this is the beauty of AI. It's not supposed to be like one size fit all. It's like a lovely helper that can adopt to any sort of existing process or function and amplifying the efficiency of that team or that process.
Right. I love it. Like I said, I'm excited to learn more about how I can use it and continue to learn more about how I can use it. I know my learning is never probably ever going to be done. Like you said, it's always changing. It's always evolving. I think about when, like you said, in late 2022, when this stuff came out and people were using it like as a joke or as a meme, they were trying to be funny with ChatGPT. And now, like yours, there's whole businesses built on how to properly use this. And I'm going backwards a little bit, but you mentioned you've been in the e-commerce space for a little bit now. Did you have a sort of a light bulb moment when you looked at AI and said, okay, I can use this and I can build a business off of this to help other businesses really perform better?
Yeah, basically it was quite like that. It was I just remember for the first time I started using ChatGPT, and I kind of felt this slight kind of panic and complete fear because I really realize, I guess, the magnitude of what is happening. Because if you are not scared about AI, then you're not paying attention. I think everybody should be scared about AI. That's not like a doomsday kind of scenario. It's just it's a very real thing happening, and it's as exciting as it's scary. I think, um, you know, I just think this whole thing started in November 2022. Now we are November 2025, and the jumping capabilities of these AI models since for the last 2 years it's insane. And I just think that everything is kind of compounding. And so if people don't necessarily, if they're not paying attention on now on how AI is going to disrupt everything, I think very, very soon they will not really have the choice. Like AI is going to start really disrupting things. And back in 2022, when I was kind of starting to play around with ChatGPT for the processes of my team, I had this kind of feeling of, all right, if I don't jump on this right now, if I don't learn how to use these large language models for my own benefit, I will probably in a few years' time see a reality where I will be completely replaced. And I basically, I kind of had this excited moment. I had this kind of fearful moment, and then I just kind of decided that, all right, this is probably one of the greatest things that is happening in humanity, like in terms of technological advancements. But it's also not going to be just positive. I need to like get on with it and basically upskill myself, if that makes sense.
Right. And I'd love to learn more about like sort of if you can share them, like the first steps you took with it. Like what were some of the first implementations of AI that you use in your own boutique or your own team that made it like a light bulb, a further like eureka, like, oh my God, I could make this a business. I could turn this into um, a profitable way for me to help other people implement this themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that in 2022, when ChatGPT came out with the GPT 3.5 model, at that point, um, the focus was very much on like text outputs. I mean, the focus of large language models in general is still very much focused on text outputs. So anything that can be created around text. That said, now the reality is very different. For example, last week, Claude came out with a completely new data analytics tool. Claude came out with such incredible stuff last week. Bravo, Claude. Bravo, Anthropic. Yeah, so like in 2022, when I started this, was basically how to optimize my listings, how to write content for any sort of promo stuff like emails and marketing. Like, how can I understand, for example, like how can I, for example, find the right formula for my Google Sheet to like make something more complex in terms of analysis, but it was very much around text-based outputs. And there is a lot of text-based outputs when it comes to anything to do with marketing.
Right.
And I think there is one thing to like get an output and there is another thing to get a good output. And so the question is, how do you learn how to work these large language models to get a really good output? And this is why I felt that there is definitely a niche in the market, because when it comes to like Amazon agencies and just generally agencies, still right now, 2 years after ChatGPT came out, there's still so many people who still manually write their listings and manually write email funnels and manually write LinkedIn posts. And I feel like this is crazy. And like, yeah,
How?
it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Why? Why? So I think there is an opportunity there.
Yeah. Well, I'm like I said, I'm excited to get into the nitty gritty, the details too, with you, and kind of how you go about training a copywriter to use ChatGPT to really again help them. It's not so much that it's doing their and you maybe you disagree, but what I've kind of been seeing, what I kind of think is that it's not so much that the ChatGPT or whatever AI model is doing the job for them. It's just giving them you're starting with a head start almost. Like, I don't know if you agree, but normally if I use ChatGPT to write something, right, I'm not just going to copy and paste that and put it into whatever task I'm using. Like, I'm going to proofread it and I'm going to check it and I'm going to edit it. And they always say too,
Yeah.
whenever I use it, it says, "Oh, ChatGPT is not infallible; it can be wrong. Please double check your work." Um, I feel like a lot of the misconception, and I'd love to talk more about any other misconceptions you hear around AI, is that people, and actually, funny enough, I was just to go off on a tangent. I was just talking about this with my boss Stephanie today about these kids today are using AI to write their essays for them, and then they're copying and pasting it and putting it in as they're submitting it for review or for grades or whatever. Um, and they're not. I feel like that's not correct. I feel like that's not the right way. I don't know if you agree. I don't know if you have any other input on that, but I feel like that's not the right way to use AI. Is just for it to do your job for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think let's unpack that a little bit.
Mhm.
Do I believe that you can use AI to like get an output that is, let's say, 95% ready? Yes, I do. And I think that's completely possible. Do I think that most people can get like just without general preparation or training to get to that output? No, I don't. And so in this case, if you don't know or if you haven't been trained properly on how to create like effective prompts, how to like create essentially prompt processes that get you to the output, then you absolutely have to make sure that whatever the like any chatbot that you're using is outputting, you have to check, edit, and then sort of get to a final version. Do I think that kids should copy paste their like whatever ChatGPT gives and place it in the assessment? Please don't do that. Like you can do better. Come on. So yeah, so I think the answer is the best output comes from a lot of pre work, which humans have to do in order to give enough context and in order to give enough examples, in order to give enough structure, and in order to build a sort of like a almost like a prompt process that gets them to the right output. If you're doing it very quickly, then you probably will have to do a lot more of the work afterwards. If that makes sense.
Right. Right, and it's like we said earlier, and I think this range true, is that it comes down to the prompt. It comes down to what you're asking the AI to. If you have I think the 4.0 model will search the internet, or one of the Chat GPTs, or some, I'm sure the other AI models will also search the internet. But if you're not asking it to look up the right things, to do the right, pull the right data, it's just not going to give you that good output. But I'm surprised 95%. I feel like that was a lot higher than I might have thought. And do you think, following up on that one, do you think that there will be a day in the future where it's 100 or even like 99.9%, where you got to tweak like one or two things and then you're good to go? Like, is that one of the reasons why we should be scared of AI?
Yeah, 100%. Like what we are moving now, like this is the thing. ChatGPT, for example, came out with their latest model, all one, about let's say 3 weeks ago, and that model is completely different sort of beast than let's say what was GPT-4 or what was then, uh, GPT 4.0, because they sort of working on a slightly different sort of reasoning basis. The latest O1 model is all based on kind of like this advanced reasoning way, which is sort of the foundation of what we are looking in the future of agentic models. And agentic models will be all about giving a final task to the AI, and the AI, through its own reasoning, kind of like executing the necessary steps to get to that final output. And actually, last week, this is what I mentioned, what Claude did. Like Claude is a chatbot by a company called Anthropic, and it's an incredible chatbot, especially when it comes to writing. And they now rolled out a new model, or like a new functionality, which basically takes control of your computer, and you can, for example, ask it to, let's say, search for a specific like websites on the internet, pull specific data, and then input it into a Google Excel spreadsheet. And this it basically does completely autonomously. So this is the future we're going to. We're going to a future where we're getting like these AI models become more and more independent and more focused on specific tasks. And we are just telling them kind of the output that we need, but they get to that output through their own reasoning. And so, do I believe that at very, very near future, for a lot of tasks, we will be seeing an output which is 100%? Yeah, I do.
Wow. That is I guess that is a good reason to be scared of AI a little bit. Um, but I don't know. Have you ever seen Terminator, the original Terminator
Uh,
movies?
I would, to be fair, yeah, who hasn't? It's kind
Yeah,
of like one
it's
of
true.
those
It's a
things.
classic. I'm a little worried about Skynet being the next. I mean, being real, being like, all right, well, we can take over my computer, and then they can start learning, and they take over their computer, and then all of a sudden, they're taking over the world. But that's probably a little bit further away than maybe my lifetime. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I remember being a kid and learning about like the sun is gonna, like, every star explodes at the end of its life, and our sun is gonna explode in like 3 billion years. And I started freaking out, like, oh my god! But of course, I'm not gonna be alive in 3 billion years, so it's not really something I have to worry about. But kind of like, so I think that would be similar to this. I would hope. I don't know how, if you have like an ETA on that kind of time, or a guess on that kind of timeline, for when they can be like fully 100%, no mistakes. Like they're figuring out more and more and more. I know this is, like you said, it's evolved so rapidly already, that I feel like maybe that will be in my lifetime. Maybe that will be when I'm older, and I can ask ChatGPT to do something crazy that I wouldn't expect. So I don't know if you have a kind of a guess. Yeah.
This is the million-dollar question. So, like, the big question is, when is AGI, or artificial general intelligence, going to happen? Basically, when AI becomes as intelligent as humans, and there isn't a specific like timeline, and there's a sort of a scale at which, it's kind of like a 5 grade scale, which I think Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, kind of coined. I'm not really sure if it was him, or if it's just a kind of a general accepted scale, but it's kind of like artificial intelligence on 5 levels, and obviously 5 is when it's expected that we're going to reach this artificial general intelligence, and with the latest O1, this is expected that this is at level 2. So, but we don't know. For example, ChatGPT is rumored to have a new model coming out soon, which is called Orion, which is maybe GPT-5, and that might be like 100 times more powerful than GPT-4 or 4.0. So, things are compounding with more and more, like the more, I guess it will also end up based on the ability for humanity to provide enough chip and power, and just electricity, and just general power to like develop these models, because they are very like resource heavy. That would be one constraint, but just generally, like, I think things are moving faster and faster and faster. So I don't think it's going to be that far in the future.
Interesting. I'm hoping it's not something. I'm hoping we get there, right, and it's not scary. That's obviously everyone's best
Yeah.
case scenario. Um, but I have taken us on a wide kind of side path here. I do want to get back to um, integrating this AI into businesses, and talking more about Amazing Wave and what your services offer to agencies like ours. So first thing I want to talk about really, what are some key elements of getting like some of the employees, or most of the employees, whoever's going to be using the AI, what are some key elements? What are some key points of getting them into the mindset of using the AI more efficiently, or better, or at all, really?
Yeah, I think generally the first thing that I always advise every team, every agency, like whatever, whether it's an agency or an e-commerce business, is to just give access and freedom to people to experiment. Some of the best learning happens with experimentation. Of course, ideally, you want to provide your team with education, to give it framework with which to experiment, and to basically get bigger gains faster. But equally is as good as just making sure that everybody has access to ChatGPT, like the plus version, and let's say Claude, and getting everyone to like first start playing around with it, because a lot of the use cases that come, and a lot of the innovation comes from people trying to solve a problem and then sharing it with the rest. And just generally, like, that is kind of, a lot of learning happens individually, like just by testing and trying. The next thing I always say to sort of like the leadership team is to create almost to gamify it, and to find, like, to create like a space where there is um, proactive sharing of knowledge. And so I think, like, whether it's a weekly AI Scrum session, or it's a little leaderboard with prompt, like basically prompt contribution leaderboard, like who is contributing the most, and like it being rated by the rest of the team. But anything that creates this sort of like community collaboration spirit and making it more of a of a shared burden rather than a few people in the team just kind of like carrying the whole AI project on their shoulders.
I like it. I think I'm always down for, as a very competitive person. Aside from getting my like my hand, like using my hands when I talk gene, my Italian gene also gives me the very competitive edge, or competitive. Like I love competition. So I'm that sounds like a fun time. I would love to see how people can, um, really how they can use it, and how so people in our at our agency and our team would be able to think of some interesting stuff, because I know we have a lot of smart people here. So love it. And kind of on that vein, what do you do, or what do you tell leadership to do when there's someone maybe in the space that you're working with, or the business that you're working with, that is hesitant or is flat out blatantly against AI? Do you Is there a way to kind of get them slowly integrated, or is there sort of I don't want to say a loophole, but let's say they're just totally against it? I know that's probably not on you to deal with, but do you have any experience with that? Has that been like a real case scenario that's happened to you? What do you do when someone's just totally against AI?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there is a lot of people who think that AI is a fad, and it's not for me. And actually, I think generally it's difficult to get someone to convince you if you are feeling very passionate about your stance, unless you just see the sort of the results. And this is why I say, like, if you have a team, this is what I do a lot of the time is a lot of the time I create like foundation boot camps for, like, let's say the entire company, where everybody comes and just kind of gets a foundational education, and then through like tasks and through sort of this kind of more competition based sort of uh, prompt, like let's say prompt creation or AI process creation, you get to encourage people to like actually start using it. And once you have enough critical mass of people showcasing their successes, their results, then in that case, like this works enough of a, I guess, a conviction for the non-believers to maybe start rethinking things. If you go and sit down and say, hey, mate, like, you're wrong about AI is great, you should use it, that's just words. But if you have like a lot of people who are like, wow, I basically, this took me only like I did this 2 times quicker, or I didn't have to like do this painful thing because AI did it for me, like, that speaks for itself. And normally people kind of then start to try and adopt it with themselves. But it normally starts with education. I think a lot of the and sort of naysayers are coming from a place of just being insecure and not having enough information to know how to use these tools. And that's why a lot about education helps to like bridge this gap and make the process, I guess, faster and easier for sort of like bringing everyone onto the AI train.
Right. And as a former naysayer, I will say that I was hesitant to try it and hesitant to do it because you're right. Like I said, I wasn't informed. I wasn't in the know of, okay, AI isn't just, do you want to take over the world? Yes. And then ChatGPT says, yes, I do. It's how can I, analyze this analysis, and how can I make it better? How can I give them better tips? How can I write my listings better? What bullet points? What am I missing in my bullet points that's not helping me convert as well as I want to? All this kind of good stuff. Thinking, Amazon wise, for it. So I think I like that a lot. I like there's a lot of quotes out there about people hate what they don't know, and stuff like that, and people are afraid of what they don't know, and so knowledge is power, all that kind of cliches. But it's true. I mean, I can't tell you how many things that, or how many, trying to think of like a real world example for me, like how many foods I don't want to try because I don't know about them. But then I learn about them. I'm like, okay, well, I could do that. Or a recipe that I'm scared to make, but I learned the steps and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, this could be good. So it's interesting how knowledge can really help shape a perception of something. So the other piece of advice, I know we talked a little bit about misconceptions of AI, and about how kids should not use it to do their homework assignments. But looking at it from an e-commerce perspective, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you find or that you think are out there, that business owners, CEOs, and people that want to integrate AI but are scared of it? What are some of the biggest misconceptions that they have about using AI within their team or in their business?
Oof, difficult to say. I think a lot of misconceptions are around the fact that AI is just not good, that it can't do it. And to be fair, in some cases that is true. And this is actually something that I wanted to caveat earlier when I said, oh, we're gonna get to 100%. We can get to 100%, but um not maybe in all areas or with all tasks. Like everything AI is trained on a lot of data, but it always depends on what exactly you are asking it to do. So, like if you are, for example, going for something very very niche that maybe the large language model hasn't been trained on, there is, for example, a very high likelihood that there will be hallucinations. So there is limitations from that point of view. So when I, for example, talk with founders and business owners in terms of their expectations or like their kind of like prejudices towards AI, there is the sort of the most common kind of argument that I hear is, well, we tried it, but it's just not very good. It gives us very robotic output, and there we have to like rewrite the whole thing, so we don't really feel like it's saving us a lot of time.
Right.
And this goes back again to the question of knowing how to use AI, knowing how to prompt it, and knowing what is required for the AI to give you good output. So, if it's, for example, text, it is all about the context that you give it and the examples that you give in terms of what good looks like. AI wouldn't know what is your specific case unless you tell it. AI wouldn't know what is like a good output unless you give it an example of good output. And so this is one way. Like if you, for example, talk about using AI for data analysis, well, again, like which large language model are you using? If you're using something like, and again, what kind of data input are you inputting? If it is it a text-based data input or is it numerical data input? So if it's, for example, text-based input, something like Claude can actually analyze this in a so much smarter way than something like ChatGPT. If you are going for numerical based inputs, maybe ChatGPT is better. Though caveat, Claude just came out with a sort of an advanced data analytics model, so I have to test that to say with again how do you prompt this? Like, do you explain to the language model what exactly data you're inputting? Do you explain the metrics? Do you like reference the specific data like naming conventions clearly in the prompt? So there's so many intricacies that you need to know, that you need to give to the large language model when you're prompting in order to get good output. So you can't say, oh, we're not getting good output because maybe you just don't know how to ask for that. That makes sense.
And I do see a lot about that, about like my dad uses AI a lot too. And he'll say he always, whenever he uses it for whatever purpose it is, he'll say to the chatbot, or to, I think he uses ChatGPT a lot. He'll say, you are um, a newsletter writer, you are a copywriter, you are a whatever, like I said, whatever job he's using it for. He'll say, you are you're a specialist in this whatever field. And he'll say, here is an example of an article that is very, very good. Like, he'll do just that. He'll say, here's a really good article. Write me another article based on X, Y, and Z research, or like based on this link, similar to this one. And so he loves to do that whole sort of a fixed input. Like, here's what I want you to do, or here's an example of what I want you to do. Make something like it. So it's very interesting to hear you say that. It's the whole, just again, the process of using AI correctly, and some again, some misconceptions that people have about it, and implementing it into their business.
Well done to your dad. Look at that. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
how old is your dad?
Old guy. Oh God, he just turned 60 last year, I guess it was this year. This year in March, we had his 60th birthday. So, he's a lot older than me. No offense, Dax. I know he likes to watch all these. So I'll give him a nice shout out there. But
Well,
he
Pete's
does
dad,
use
well
it very
done.
good.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Yes. So he knows what he's doing more than he got on the AI train before I did, I think. Um, and I think he was a little bit more he's a little bit more informed, I'll say. He's a little bit less scared, he's more informed to kind of use it. So, but yeah. Yeah, no, I like I said, I love it. I think this could be I think it's definitely not a fad. I don't think this is going away anytime soon. I definitely think this is important for e-commerce businesses to learn about, to really maximize success or increase profitability or increase efficiency in your business. And kind of on that, I'd love to know more about what you guys, any like real examples of what you guys have done that you can share with me to that has helped businesses increase efficiency. Anything like super specific that maybe our viewers out there that might be a little bit skeptical are wondering about, like what exactly can Amazing Wave and the AI processes do to help me increase business.
Yeah, sure. So, for example, we worked with another Amazon agency, and they had a kind of a quite a classical listing optimization process. They had a whole bunch of copywriters, and then a few people then later on optimized the sort of the written product listings with keywords, and then someone who then finally finishes the whole thing and checks it. Um, we we work with them to like redevelop the entire process to be pretty much mostly done by AI, and basically we redeveloped this whereby we kind of combine the existing process, but we make sure that most of the steps are picked up by AI, and also injecting sort of more sophisticated data input. So this is one thing that actually currently a lot of businesses are not necessarily doing enough, is using a lot of data in order to like make their, let's say, copy better, uh their customer personas. They don't build necessarily customer personas. They don't inject like insights from like reviews, phrasing and semantics into their product listings. They're just basically writing a product listing for based on the bias of the copywriter rather than using data from the customers. And this is where the beauty of AI comes, is like you can inject all of this data insights that normally wouldn't have been included before. It's sort of a more classic way of listing optimization. You can inject
Right.
that and then get the AI to actually write like all of the sort of the content based on that data, that insight. And so we developed this entire process, injecting a lot of data along the way, redeveloping their kind of like copywriting to be mostly lifted by AI. And as a result, what we saw is like their process became 2 times faster. They they needed 60% less people to do it, and it became 70% cheaper because rather than having like three different types of people going through it, you basically needed a cheaper resource that just follows the process and then just one final person to check the final sort of input. So it's basically like a complete reshifting of what you need in order to like create product listings. You create them better, more tailored to your target persona, and you do it in a more automated way without needing loads of humans doing work, which is essentially not as well informed by data. Another way, like we basically another sort of project that we did was kind of like a sort of a foundational boot camp for an entire agency, whereby they had maybe like, let's say, only 10-15% of their team actually like working with AI. And after the boot camp, which was kind of like sort of a blitz, more than 75% of the staff started experimenting across the entire agency. And of course, this is the thing with all of these kind of more foundational boot camps. It takes some time for people to like develop their own processes, but it basically gets everyone on the same page and everyone started to think about AI. And I think that there's something really, really powerful about having every single facet of your company looking into automation as kind of a always in the back of their mind, because it's kind of the rule of the compounding benefit. Like, you know, if even if everyone in your team just does 1% something 1% better by using AI, that will compound across your entire company over time. You create like really big benefits and efficiencies. So yeah.
That makes me. I've heard that before of like like, and we talked about it today already too. The compounding of the AI makes me think of an old prank we used to do where we would call two different pizza places and we would put them on the phone with each other, and they would talk to each other like that. So um, to put that into a real perspective, so Jake doesn't get mad at me for just bringing it up for no reason. Um, it's like, so that can the AI, and I know we talked about compounding in the sense of one person does this and then another person maybe builds on it. But could the AI build upon each other as well? It's kind of going off on like a different direction there, but could the AI essentially improve each other? And I guess, like we said already, using AI in your company, one person's process could be improved by another person's use of the AI, that kind of thing. But do you think the AI could talk to each other, quote unquote, eventually? Maybe
Uh,
that may be a future
So
question.
in a kind of a more like a press the button way, yeah, I think it will be there in the very near future. I think at the moment, actually, some of the best outputs you get is by combining the outputs of different AIs. So like one way I work a lot with chatbots is like I use ChatGPT for certain types of outputs, and I use Claude for different types of outputs. And a lot of the times, I take certain outputs from Claude, and then I input them into ChatGPT. So I use the strengths of different chatbots to get to the optimal sort of result. You can do that by also using platforms like u.com or Poe, which actually have access to all of the different like popularly available large language models. So you can, for example, get access to Gemini, Llama, Claude, all the sort of OpenAI different models, and then within one chat, like do something called large language model stacking, where you are basically within the same chat, you switch between models to get different outputs from different models. So I think it is very much possible to do that, and it's just about you have to again have a very acute knowledge of what is the one of the strengths and the weaknesses of each large language model, and also how to essentially build a AI process, or like sort of like a, let's say, a prompt chain that makes sense, that it breaks down the process in a way that indeed you are building off the sort of the best output from the previous prompt, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. No, I know we talked about also before about how, it depends on what you put into it. And so if you don't have the AI is not putting in good stuff, then you're not going to get good results from the other AI and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
just thought that was an interesting, maybe maybe we don't want them talking to each other. So I say, hey, these humans are really asking us some weird questions. But I don't know, that might be too sci-fi. If you are a loyal viewer out there, I always like to ask the guest, what's next? What's the future of, whatever topic we're talking about? But we had a lot about the future of AI and a lot about kind of what's next. So I want to make this question, Joe, for you a little bit more specific. How do you think in 5, 10 years, how do you think AI will affect the way that Amazon sellers can connect with their customers? So very specific to my audience of Amazon sellers and Amazon shoppers, maybe. And again, my dad. How do you think that AI will be able to connect these sellers better with customers, with buyers, Or how do you think sellers will be able to kind of target these buyers even better with AI?
So I think there's many different ways. I think one way is around personalization. So a lot of so I guess the question has to be split a little bit about, is it just specifically Amazon like only sellers? Are we talking about sellers that have Amazon presence as one of their channels but have a wider e-commerce store? So it's because then we have to, yeah, what would you like to cover first?
Because I because our agency is moving towards covering a lot more channels than Amazon, and we're working on getting a Shopify and a TikTok shop. I'm going to say omni-channel. I'm going to say, how does an
Okay,
omni-channel seller reach people,
right.
reach customers better with AI in 5, 10 years?
Yeah, sure. One way is definitely around personalization and customization. I think AI can provide sort of like a unparalleled ability to personalize the message to every single customer, and you would have like you can basically get all of the data that you know about the customers and um, sort of use it to then reach the customer. Like one of the things that I am currently working on is, for example, how to use voice AI to like reach your like different customers. Basically, a very human sounding like AI chatbot can ring any of your customers and essentially ask them for a like whether it's a survey or sort of try and get sort of information from them or like to offer them something new. And this can be done at scale if you have the data for that customer. I think for from a sort of like a marketing point of view, I just think that, for example, um, all of the image generators, all of the AI image generators are getting better and better just by the minute. Like last week, Midjourney came out with an image editor option, which is really amazing because you can now use the power of Midjourney to generate like different sort of AI iterations, but with an input, your like basically the input of your original image. So you know, you can take any sort of like product image and then sort of add whatever additional sort of elements you want with that product image uh, using AI. So the cost of marketing, creating marketing collateral is going to decrease. For example, we don't have access to it yet because of the US elections, but when Sora comes out, which is OpenAI's video, like text to video generator,
Right.
I think, when it comes to like creating any sort of like video advertisements or anything like that, that would be, that basically can be done by any sort of like any, well, I wouldn't say intern, but anyone with like a good understanding of how video works, and it will be basically fraction of the cost of creating a video ad of like what it will cost now. In terms of like just thinking about like bigger macro, like if we think about AI in logistics and sort of like supply chain, I think AI is going to massively disrupt those channels as well. Like in my newsletter, I think this week I am specifically covering how, for example, a lot of logistics and supply chain companies are now adopting AI to just do even simple things like scanning the sort of the order confirmations and sort of automating the entire process, which will trickle down to like to sellers because it will basically reduce time. It will make things much more accurate. It will basically like lost items and like lost packages are gonna sort of like be kind of a thing of the past. And then yeah, so and then if you just look at AI from a point of view of new product development, a lot of people are already adapting AI, for example, using Midjourney to imagine new products. But I think this will become like this will be done even at more scale, and I would expect that there will be specific, like let's say, large language models that are specializing in that. So I think every single facet of being a seller, an e-commerce seller, will be disrupted in one way or another by AI. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty much.
I'm excited. I am excited by that. That's one of the few things of AI I'm excited about is seeing how we even as agencies can reach out to potential clients, potential partners, and target them better and give them a more personalized experience that isn't just a mass marketing email of the past. So I think it's gonna be very exciting. I'm curious to see where AI goes in the future. Like I said, there's always gonna be a part of me that's a little scared. It's gonna be a Skynet. It's gonna be a little Terminator type thing, but I think we are. I don't think that's real. I just think that's maybe honestly, there's some deep part of me that thinks it's fun to have that idea of like a sci-fi movie coming to life. But I don't know. Either way, I think for in the moment, living in the present, we have a great use of AI and we have a great sort of method, and there's a great many ways for you to use it to make your business better, as noted today by our guest Joe. So, Joe, thank you so much for coming on to talk to me about Amazing Wave, about AI, about all the topics we talked about. I want to give you a chance to say any final thoughts on everything we covered today. Anything you want to sum up or if you want to sum up our lengthy discussion in a final thought here for our viewers, if you can.
Hoo-ha. Okay, a summary. I would say the most exact summary is AI is not going away. My advice to you guys is to really like just invest the $20, buy yourself a ChatGPT or Claude subscription, start playing around with it, and see what is the thing that is kind of like very repetitive in your day-to-day work, and see if you can maybe get at least part of it done by AI, and then work your sort of way from there. It's not exclusive. It's not something that you have to like wait for somebody to like show you how to do. Just start, and then obviously if you have education, great. But the best thing to do if you don't have the opportunity to have education is to just educate yourself. But don't delay on that, because I think the more you delay, the steeper the learning curve.
Right. And the longer you wait, the further along everyone else will be, including your competitors. And so if they're using it to kind of beat you out and steal some market share, or again, like target these customers better, if they're already doing that, you're already behind. So might want to start catching up a little bit. So great. Joe, thank you so much for coming on today to talk to me about, again, AI and Amazing Wave and all these different topics. I really appreciate you teaching me something as well, learning about AI and kind of the future and current uses for it. I always tell my guests that I'm trying to be like the Joe Rogan of the Amazon space, where I'm really just talking to these people, yes, for the whole podcast thing, but also just to learn and to understand more about what's out there right now, and how we can take that internally and help our partners sell better. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah. And thank you all for watching. If you like the sound of this, or if you like the sound of learning more things about Amazon, especially with me, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel to stay in the know with all new things related to, again, selling better. And also, if you want to connect with Joe on LinkedIn or check out her website, Amazing Wave, her company's website, I'll have both of those in the description below. So make sure to click those links and stay up to date on all things AI. You'll also have access to her newsletter in there. Joe, I'll throw in a link to subscribe to that as well. So make sure to check out our description for a bunch of handy and fruitful links so you can learn, again, more about AI. So, and thank you all for watching. I am Velocity Pete, and we will see you next week.